Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming despite the enchanting weather outside. We're going to hear Yochi Rappeport speak. She's with us. She was born in Sfat and raised in an Orthodox environment of the old city of her birth. Upon turning 18, she was drafted into the IDF, where she served as a commander in the Nativ military corps, teaching Judaism and Zionism to new immigrants and non-Jewish soldiers. Following her military service, Yochi studied political science and Middle Eastern studies at Bar Ilan University. After graduating, she served as an executive assistant at an Israeli news agency. She joined Women of the Wall in 2016 as Director of Education and Community Outreach. And she's dedicated herself to educating and inspiring the Israeli public about WOW's mission, which she's going to discuss with us. She's married, the mother of a toddler girl, and she's hoping to make Jerusalem and Israel more tolerant places for her daughter and future generations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think you got the unupdated bio. My toddler has since turned 4.5 actually, and I have a baby daughter who is 8 months old. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So now she's in the presentation too. She doesn't have to be jealous. Good morning. Shavua Tov, everyone. And thank you very much for joining. I don't know what is nice weather March in Buffalo, but here in Jerusalem, I think we were at 70 degrees today here in Jerusalem. So like Deborah said, I grew up in Sfat. Sfat is a very peripheral, a very Orthodox-minded city. I grew up in the national religious community. It's the Bnei Akiva community here in Israel. So not all Orthodox, and not modern Orthodox. When I grew up, I went to a school for girls only. And when I was about 16 or something like that, I started realizing that even though I love God, really, I love going to shul and I love praying with my classmates every morning, but something in my religious experience is still missing. But I couldn't put the finger on exactly what it is that's missing. Now, again, I grew up in a very peripheral city, so there are not many options out there. So we had a lot of secular people in Sfat, but even they were very Orthodox oriented. So I didn't want to be secular. I didn't want to be ultra-Orthodox, and I did not know what else is out there. It's kind of like you're cooking something, you're cooking a stew, and you're tasting it, and it tastes okay. It tastes fine, but it's not perfect yet. And you're looking for the spice that's missing. And let me let you in on a little secret. I don't cook so well. And when I cook, I don't really know what spices to use in order to get to the right taste that I'm looking for. And only when I was 18 and I joined the army, and I was finally, I met the larger society of Israel, the larger Israeli society. And only then I was introduced to the liberal-minded Jews. And I learned that feminism and Judaism can actually go well together. And then I realized that the spice that was missing in my life was so simple. It was so basic. It was salt. Now, even I know about salt. It was me going to synagogue and not just sitting in the side or the back of the synagogue and quiet mumbling the words. I want to participate. I want to stand in front of the bima and I want to lead services. I want to read from the Torah and not just kiss it with my pinky from far away. And when I was introduced to this beautiful world that women can be a part, I fell in love. And that's where I was introduced to Women of the Wall too, the group of women that we're going to discuss today, the organization that we're going to talk about a little bit. And they showed me my way back home. They showed me the path to the Judaism that I feel connected to today. So I still consider myself Orthodox today, modern Orthodox. I'm committed to the halakha, the Jewish law, but I'm also committed to being a part. And as a mother to two daughters, I know that the Judaism that I want to pass on to them must be one that involves them, that they know that they have an active role in their Judaism. I'm going to share you with a short video clip, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the Western Wall, women of the wall, and the larger goal that we're trying to achieve. And at the end, I'm more than happy to take any question that you have. Okay. So the main question that we're going to ask ourselves throughout this presentation is, who owns the Western Wall? And by trying to answer this question, who owns the Western Wall, or why does someone own the Western Wall, we're actually going to try and answer a more complicated question, which is, who owns Judaism here in Israel? And before I talk about women of the wall, I actually want to talk about the Western Wall itself. And I want to take you back in history, 2,000 years ago, after the Second Temple was destructed, and Jews were scattered throughout the diaspora, and they were sitting on the rivers of Babylon and mourning Zion, mourning Jerusalem. And what kept them together as a group was their hope that one day they will return back home to Zion, Israel of today, and their dream, once again, to be able to pray freely at the Western Wall, the Kotel, the only remnant that survived after the destruction of the temple. Their dream, their desire, their hope is what turned the Western Wall to a holy site, and not God. Jews, throughout the generations, men, women, Reformed, conservative, Orthodox, Reconstructionist, secular, liberal, we all turned the Western Wall into a holy site. And women today still have that same simple dream. Once again, to be able to pray freely at the holy site with a Torah scroll. Women of the Wall is a group of women from all denominations. What's so unique about this group is the fact that we were able to break the barriers. First one, between ourselves. We have women from all denominations, Orthodox, Reformed, conservative, secular, liberal, Reconstructionist, unaffiliated, men and women. We broke the barriers there as well. We gather together once a month, Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the Hebrew month, which was Friday, Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet. We gather at the women's section of the wall, the Western Wall, and we pray. Very simple. We do what everyone else does when they go to the Western Wall. We pray. We pray and we demand that women too, today of 2022, will be able to pray according to our tradition. And what we ask for, I promise you, very, very simple. We ask for the basic right to be able to pray out loud. That's our first goal. When you go to the Western Wall, I don't know when you were there lately, but when you go to the Western Wall, the men's section is full of groups and groups of men who are forming different minyanim, praying out loud together. At the women's section, it's usually quiet. But when women of the wall come, we come as a larger group, and we demand that as a group of women, we'll be able to pray freely out loud with the talit, the prayer shawl, the tefillin, the phylacteries. And our fourth goal, which is our main goal until today, is the Torah. To be able to read from the Torah scroll at the Western Wall. Now just think for a minute how absurd our struggle is. For 33 years now, a group of Jewish religious women are fighting for the basic right to pray. We're asking to do the most Jewish thing of them all, to pray at the holy site of the Jewish people, the Kotel. And Israel was established for the whole purpose to be the homeland of the Jewish people. After 2,000 years of Jews having to hide their Judaism, Israel was established to say, no more. Everyone should be able to practice, or by the way, not practice Judaism according to their belief. And yet, 33 years, a group of women are fighting for their right to pray with the Jewish items at the Kotel. This photo in front of you, to the left, are the paratroopers who liberated the Western Wall back in '67. Those paratroopers are part of a larger group of paratroopers of 1967, and they joined Women of the Wall struggle. They called us up about 13 years ago, and they said, look, when we fought for the Western Wall, we did it knowing that we are sacrificing our lives. But we had to do it because we knew that the happiness of the people in Israel and the diaspora is not going to be complete until the Western Wall, the symbol of the Jewish people all over the world, is not in the hands of the Jewish people. But we look at how the Western Wall was conquered again, and this time it was conquered within a small zealot group of our people, and we cannot be silent anymore. They joined our struggle, and they say, you, Women of the Wall, to the right, the picture to the right, by the way, was taken by the same photographer as the original picture. You are the modern liberators of the Western Wall. Because if in 1967, a group of men with helmets and guns liberated the Western Wall, today, a group of women with prayer shawls and a Torah scroll are liberating the Western Wall once again. And now I have to take you back to the initial question that I was asking. Who owns the Western Wall? Who are we liberating the Western Wall from? Now, 33 years ago, by coincidence, a group of women came to the Western Wall and started praying out loud. They wanted to have a service for the welfare of the state of Israel, and they had a lot of violence against their service because they were praying out loud in a way that was never accepted at the women's section. It never happened there. It never occurred there. They got a lot of, shh, be quiet, women, your voice is sexual, you have to be quiet. But then they dared to take a Torah scroll and started reading from it. And then the violence turned into physical violence, and the men tried to kidnap their Torah scroll. And some of the women, unfortunately, ended up in the hospital. And they went home disappointed. Most of them were American. Most of them were modern Orthodox. They went home disappointed by the fact that the government of Israel, the state of the Jewish people, will not accept their way of Judaism. But amongst those women was Anat Hoffman, the chairwoman of Women of the Wall. And she said, no, we cannot allow this to go through. We have to do something, and we have to liberate the Western Wall again. Back in '67, when the Western Wall returned to the hands of Israel, the chief rabbinate, an ultra-Orthodox institute here in Israel, who are basically in charge of every religious aspect of our lives here, turned to the government of Israel and said, okay, who is going to own the Western Wall? As a religious group, give us the keys to the Western Wall. And the government of Israel handed the chief rabbinate the keys to the Western Wall. And they appointed the rabbi of the Western Wall, who turned the Western Wall into the Israeli Vatican. It's literally a country within a country. The rabbi is like the Pope. He's appointed for life. The current rabbi is 50 years old. He was appointed 25 years ago. He can go on for as long as he wants. His job is secured for life. No other position in a democratic state is like that. Everyone has an end date, except for the rabbi of the Western Wall. And as the Pope, as the prime minister of the Western Wall, he has the ability to conduct new laws. And back in 1988, 33 years ago, when that group of women came to the Western Wall, and after the first service, they started coming again and again and again, and the rabbi understood that he has to stop them. So he conducted a new law, and he says that one may not lead a religious ceremony that contradicts local custom and hurts the feelings of the worshipers. Now, one may not lead a religious ceremony. I know what a religious ceremony is. It's a tefillah, it's a prayer service that contradicts, that goes against local custom. The main question that we were asking back then, and we're still asking today, what is the tradition? What is local custom at the Western Wall? And in 1988, the rabbi said, well, please allow me to explain. Because from 1967 to 1988, when you started coming here with your circus, I owned the Western Wall. And I turned the Western Wall into an ultra-Orthodox synagogue. I put up the divider, the mechitza, wasn't there before that. And according to my synagogue, women cannot pray out loud because kol beisha irva, a woman's voice is sexual. Men cannot hear her sing. So instead of men not listening, women simply have to be silent. They definitely, according to the rabbi, cannot pray with the Jewish items, talit, tefillin, Torah, because if they do so, they might hurt the feelings of the worshipers. And who are those worshipers? Because women of the wall have been coming to the Western Wall for 33 years now. Are we part of the worshipers? No. Only men or women, but only if you pray according to the rabbi's way. This law, by the way, if you violate it, at least it was true until 2013, you can go to jail for 6 months or pay a 10,000 shekel fine, $3,000 US. This is a law that's approved by the Israeli government, a law that says that if you pray in a way, now everything here is according to the Orthodox law. Nothing here violates the Orthodox law, but the rabbi says, it's just not my custom. It's not my tradition, so you're not welcome here. You can go to jail for trying as a woman to put on the talit or read the Shema. Now, our struggle might take place at the Western Wall itself, but it only reflects on a few larger issues that are still taking place here in Israel. And the first one is, of course, the public sphere here in Israel and how women are treated in the public sphere. These signs, I don't know if you were ever in Israel and if you ever came upon signs such as the one presented in front of you, signs mainly in the old Orthodox communities, asking women to dress in a certain way, in a modest way, according to their code, asking women sometimes to move to the other side of the sidewalk, to enter the building from a certain entrance. And it's all because modesty. Can you please be considerate? The issue is that those neighborhoods are not private. They are public neighborhoods. They might be Orthodox neighborhoods, but they are public sphere. And they end up with signs like these where women are physically marked off saying, okay, no, it's not modest to see women in the public sphere. Unfortunately, more and more we're facing, we're just facing the fact that women have to fight for their right to be a part, to be present in the public sphere. We're fighting the separation in public libraries in certain neighborhoods, in universities. More and more we see how they're trying to separate not private, but public universities, classes for men and classes for women. And afterwards, the library, of course, has to have certain hours for men and for women, because it's not modest for men and women to sit together and not together at the same table, God forbid, but in the same room. You see the cafeteria that has different lines for men and for women. The army, the IDF, after so many years that women have fought to enter every position and a lot of combat units as well, now in the name of hurting the feelings of others, the religious soldiers, women are not allowed into certain units and certain positions. We're talking about public springs where men come and just demand that women will not be there because they want to go into the water and they don't want women to be there because for them it's not modest. So again, who is paying the price? Women. And we pay that price for the same reason that we pay the price at the kotel. It hurts the feelings of others, men. And the second issue that Women of the Wall are dealing with, amongst a lot of other organizations, is the monopoly over religion. Even though Israel was never, ever established as an Orthodox state, Israel is run like an Orthodox state. The chief rabbinate that I mentioned before, the Ultra-Orthodox Institute, they basically control every religious aspect in Israel. But because of the lack of separation between state and religion, it means that they basically control every aspect of our lives here. Meaning, there's only one way to get married in Israel, the chief rabbinate. So far, no civil marriage in Israel. Meaning, if you cannot get married through the chief rabbinate because you don't want to, you belong to the gay community, a priest and a divorced woman or a convert, they cannot marry. The rabbis will simply not marry them. There's no other way to get married. There's no civil marriage here. Now, the answer is rather simple. You can just go abroad and get married there and come back. You have a civil marriage abroad. You come back and you just register as married. That's what I did. Or what a lot of couples choose more and more is not to get married. They have a lovely ceremony. Sometimes they even have a rabbi, a reform or conservative rabbi, but it's not considered a marriage here in Israel because it's not through a chief rabbinate. The issue is divorce, because you have only one way to divorce in Israel, and it's through the chief rabbinate. And according to the chief rabbinate, the only way to get a divorce is if the husband will allow you a divorce. And unfortunately, you hear about so many women who are literally captured in a marriage that they want nothing to do with. The husband can be abusive, he can be sexually abusive towards the kids, and yet if he doesn't give you a divorce, you're considered married. Only one way for burials here, the chief rabbinate. They are the ones who are in charge of burial. If a woman wants to say Kaddish, good luck. If a woman wants to stand next to her husband, brother, father, a lot of times that's an issue as well because they want a separation. Restaurants, kosher certificates, only through the chief rabbinate. Now, there was a very beautiful private initiative that's taking off more and more now with this new government that came out and said, okay, we're offering a different type of kosher certificates. They're trying to break the monopoly. And the chief rabbinate took them to court and said, no, we own the word kosher, the same way that we own the word Judaism. Because according to them, there's only one way to be Jewish, and it's their way. You want to come to the kotel? No problem, you're welcome. But you have to leave your belief at home, and you have to come and bow and pray in the way of the chief rabbinate, the Orthodox way. And the third issue that Women of the Wall are trying to discuss and deal with is bridging the gap between Israel and world Jewry. The majority of Jews all over the world are not Orthodox, and they want the government of Israel, which is the homeland of all Jewish people, to accept their way of Judaism. And yet, we still have to fight for that right. And Women of the Wall is one of the organizations who are doing everything so you feel at home here. So when you come to the symbol of the Jewish nation, you'll have a dignified place to pray at. You'll have a place to say, this is an honorable place to pray at. So between the years of 2010 to 2013, over 50 women were actually arrested at the Western Wall. For what? For reading the Shema out loud, for wearing a talit, for trying to read from a Torah scroll. And in 2013, two very important things happened. And the first one was that the district court finally ruled that not only is there no reason at all to arrest women of the wall. The judge, who was religious, by the way, Moshe Sobel, turned to the police and said, if you want to arrest someone, please arrest the people who were violent against this group of women. But then he also said something very interesting. The rabbi of the Western Wall always says the custom of the place is my custom, is my way. But we all know that tradition in Judaism is something that develops, that can change. The judge said women of the wall have been coming to the wall for 25 years now, 33 today. But back then it was 25. They, he said, brought a new tradition to the Western Wall, a pluralistic tradition, a liberal-minded tradition, one that says that women too can pray with the talit, tefillin, the Jewish rituals, the Jewish items. Technically, legally, we won. Women of the Wall are one of the first organizations that fight the religious status quo here in Israel. We were one of the only organizations that were able to break through that status quo. Legally, when you come to the Western Wall today, and please come, you can pray out loud. In September, I came to the Western Wall, and it was one of the most engaging moments for me. I came and I was waiting for my group of women for the slichot before Yom Kippur. And as I was waiting, there was a large group of religious girls, a huge circle throughout the women's section, and they were singing out loud. And it was so beautiful. They sang so harmonically. And I turned to a couple of them afterwards, and I said, it was so nice and emotional for me to hear you singing today. I don't know if you know that, but I'm from Women of the Wall, and this is what we're fighting for. We're fighting for your ability to be able to sing out loud. One of them thanked me, and the other one started attacking me. Yes, but you do it in a provocative way. Me, all I do is come here with my friends and I sing, but you have to come here with your talit and your tefillin and all of your people. And I said, look, I'm not here to argue with you. But without my so-called provocation, where will you be today? We fought for the ability for you to be able to sing out loud. You may not agree with me, but your victory, your ability to sing is on our back. Legally, you're able to bring your talit in today and your tefillin. They won't take it at the entrance. You know, we're even able to read from the Torah. Technically, we're even able to read from the Torah at the Kotel. The issue is that the rabbi of the Western Wall, unfortunately, he's clever and he's devious. And he came up with a new law, and this law said that no one, men or women, can enter the Western Wall with a Torah scroll. And he said, look, it's not against women, of course. I mean, men can't bring a Torah scroll in either. But at the Western Wall, there are over 120 Torah scrolls that anyone can use anytime they want. The issue is that those Torah scrolls are at the men's section. And when the rabbi refers to anyone, he refers to men only. The women's section has 0 Torah scrolls. We offered to donate one, he said no. We asked him to give us one, he said no. So the only option that remains for Women of the Wall, if we want to read from a Torah on Rosh Chodesh, which is what you traditionally do, is to smuggle one in, or at least try and smuggle one in every time you come to the Western Wall. And not only is it hard to smuggle a Torah scroll in after we tried so many tricks for so many years now, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to tell you that I have to smuggle a Torah into the holy site. After 2,000 years that Jews had to go down to the basement, had to light the candles for Shabbat, afraid that the neighbors will see, afraid that someone will hear them sing the Manishtana in Pesach. 2,000 years that Jews were afraid of practicing their Judaism in public. And yet we have to smuggle a Jewish item into a Jewish site. It's embarrassing. And when we come to the wall, we go through a very thorough body search. They check our bags very carefully. Our opponents, by the way, who join us at the Western Wall, they go through. They go in, no one checks them, they can bring in a bomb. One of them brought in a knife once, and they only caught it afterwards, after he entered the Western Wall. Because on Rosh Chodesh, they're not looking for a bomb, they're not looking for a knife, they're not looking for weapons, they're looking for a Torah scroll. And one of the most embarrassing moments for me at the wall was when I came about 5 years ago, and it was very cold, and I was wearing a big sweater and a big coat. And we walked in, and one by one, open up your coat, looking through our pockets, touching us. And then they got to me, and it was, okay, Yochi, can you please open up your coat? Not please, open up your coat. Embarrassed enough, I open up my coat. And then, can you please lift up your sweater? And then they see a giant bump there. And they look at me and they say, Yochi, what is that? Now, I looked at them and I turned white. And I couldn't understand what they're asking. I mean, obviously they understand that I'm pregnant because they saw me last month and the month before and the previous month. And I started giggling nervously, and they asked me to step aside, and so they started petting me throughout my stomach, my large stomach, to see if it's a Torah scroll or might it be my pregnant daughter, my daughter kicking in there. It was so embarrassing because what you're basically saying is, you don't belong here. We don't welcome your way of practicing Judaism at the Kotel. Now, the second thing that happened in 2013 was that after your support, I have to say, North American Jewry, who pressured the previous government led by Netanyahu to find a solution. And in 2013, we were asked to sit down for negotiations with the government, and they came up with what we call the Kotel Agreement. Now, in front of you is the picture of the Western Wall. As you can see, the men's section is 2/3 of the wall. The women's section is 1/3 of the wall. The bridge that you see to the right is the bridge that leads up to Temple Mount. And underneath it is what we call the egalitarian section, Ezrat Israel. Now, this section, we kind of call it the sun deck because it's kind of how it looks like. This section was built illegally and overnight by one Naftali Bennett. Today, he's our prime minister. Back in 2013, he was the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs. And Bennett built this basically to say to the reform movement, here, you have a section, please use it, look how nice I am. Supreme Court always ruled that this is not a solution for women of the wall. This is an embarrassment of a solution. It doesn't even touch the Western Wall stones. There is a small porch there. It has been closed for the past 3 years, but this is not a solution. The Kotel Agreement that we negotiated with the government, together with our partners, the Reform and Conservative movement, is very simple. Everyone agreed for it. The ultra-Orthodox parties agreed for it. The rabbi of the Western Wall agreed for it. Everyone did. Is to take this plaza. There's already a plaza. It's separated from this plaza. It's not taking away anything. It's just renovating it, having it large, accessible. Going down there today is impossible. You have to go down through a lot of stairs. It would actually touch the Western Wall stones. Bathrooms, an office for the people in charge there, and funded by the government of Israel. And most importantly, a joint committee, and not the rabbi of the Western Wall, a joint committee led by Reform Conservative, Women of the Wall, and the Jewish Agency that are going to run this egalitarian section. Very simple. There's no big drama here. It's not taking away from the old Orthodox. It's just adding another way of praying, an egalitarian way, a way that allows all Jews to feel at home at the Kotel. This was passed by the government in 2016 and unfortunately canceled by the same government right after. Why? Because the ultra-Orthodox community understood that we're not just talking about a place to pray at. We're talking about the fact that our way of Judaism is going to be recognized by the government of Israel. And they cannot allow that. They cannot allow options. Today, people rarely know that this place exists. The entrance is very small, it's tiny, it's hidden. Once there's a big entrance, once there's a nice plaza to visit, where will secular schools prefer to go when they come to the Kotel? When they have to come to the Kotel, by the way, by law? The separated plaza or the one where they can walk in together? Of course they prefer to come in here. Diplomatic visits who come to Israel and they have to come to the Kotel and they want to walk in with their wife, husband, daughter, whoever. They don't want to go into the separated plaza. They want to go into the mixed section. But today, it's not an option. This is not a place where you can bring visitors. Option is what they are so afraid of. An option is what we are fighting for. The fact that there's not only one way for practicing Judaism or celebrating Judaism. There are many other ways, and we have to respect all of them. I'm going to end with two things. And the first one is, people often ask me, why do I do it? Why do I wake up every month for many years now at 5 a.m. for this struggle? And I say for Golan, she's the daughter, she's the girl standing next to me. The other one is in my stomach at the time. I do it for them because Women of the Wall was established 33 years ago. And I'm 32 today. When Anat and the founders of Women of the Wall established Women of the Wall, they did so saying, we're doing it for Yochi. We're doing it for her generation. So they don't have to fight our struggle. And here I am, 32 years later, fighting the same battle. And if you ask me why do I do that? For my daughter, for your grandchildren, for the next generation, for them to be able to grow up and that it would be normal for them, that that's the way of life, that there are options. Now, I know how I want to raise my daughters in many ways. I know what I want them to do when they get older. I know what I want them to be as Jewish girls. I know what I want for them. But if they choose a different path, that's fine. I don't care. All I want for them is to know that they have the option to be apart. If they decide to be ultra-Orthodox, if they decide to be secular, reform, that's fine. As long as they know that they always have to respect one another. And I want to end, before I take your questions, I want to end with a video. And this was taken almost 9 months ago on Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. I'm going to end with that, and then I'm going to take your questions.
Hi, I'm Tammy Gottlieb, Vice Chair of Women of the Wall. I've been coming to the Western Wall to pray with Women of the Wall for almost 13 years. I cry there very few times. Most of the time, I don't let the evil get to me. But on Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, it was just too difficult. A bunch of incited boys, without an ounce of respect, grabbed the suitcase full of our prayer books and tore them to shreds. They stepped on the pages and on my hands. They tore the pages and threw them in my face because of their religious radicalism. I saved what I could, and with a broken suitcase in my arms, I went into the women's section. Once there, surrounded by my friends, I cried. The powerful prayer service we had after this horrible event proved that what we were doing is so important. All the horrible feelings disappeared when I caught a glimpse of one of the young girls that came to pray with us. Especially now, I ask you to join Women of the Wall, stand by our side, and be part of our struggle. Support us.
And now back to you, if you have any.
Okay, I just, oops, hang on a second. So I sent in a command to allow people to unmute, and that includes you, Yochi, and Deborah. You're probably going to need to do that, but people have the capability to unmute now and ask any questions.
Thank you so much, Yochi. That was a wonderful presentation. And actually, so many of the questions I had, you have answered. My questions, I didn't realize.
Oh.
You've just muted everyone.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
Okay, anyway, does anyone have a question right away? Please.
I have a question or two.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand the difference between the sections. You've got the men's section, obviously. You've got a women's section. I assume that the women's section only allows women in the women's section?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so the egalitarian section would be something new that you're fighting for.
So
There's
the
no
egalitarian section actually exists today. Thanks to our struggle, the government understood that there's a need for an egalitarian section. The reform and conservative movement have been a part of our struggle for many years now, basically saying the same thing. We want a place to pray at according to our tradition. So the section that I shared with you, the egalitarian section, the sun deck there, that's the egalitarian section. I don't know if you noticed, it's very different from the other plaza. And that's the struggle now. I mean, Women of the Wall, our struggle is to be able to read Torah at the women's section. That's what we fought for, and that's what we continue to fight for. But we were and still are willing to compromise, leave the women's section and pray at the egalitarian section, but only after the Kotel agreement is implemented. Again, it's very simple. The current government is for the Kotel agreement, except for one, Prime Minister Bennett, not because he doesn't believe that the place needs to be renovated, because he's again afraid from the ultra-Orthodox pressure. He's afraid of what might happen if it's going to be implemented. How much will they oppose? They're not even in the coalition, and he's so much afraid from them. So there is an egalitarian section. It's run by the Israeli Masorti movement, the conservative movement here in Israel, but funded from their pocket, by the way. They don't get anything from the government, unfortunately, yet. You have their bar and bat mitzvahs all the time, every Monday, Thursday, but Women of the Wall do not pray there yet.
I mean, ultimately, do you just foresee having just two sections? I mean, just an egalitarian section and the ultra-Orthodox men's section? Is that what the ultimate goal is?
No, men, women, and egalitarian. No one wants to touch the women's section. We believe that women who want to pray separately from men, quietly, that's their right, but there has to be an option for women who want to pray with their talit.
In the egalitarian section, can women read from the Torah?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What kind of in addition to the actions on Rosh Chodesh, what kind of social advocacy work do you do to try to re-educate some of those people who are currently working against you?
So we don't do a lot of work with those who are against us. I don't always see the ability to reach them. They're not always very polite when I say so. But Women of Law, we have a large educational activity. We meet hundreds of groups here in Israel and abroad. Now with Zoom, it's very easy, but we try to meet as many Israeli groups as possible to educate them about not only about our struggle at the Kotel, but about the fact that Judaism does not belong to one side. When you're in Israel, and even if you're secular, the Judaism that you're raised on is very much Orthodox oriented. And we're here to say, no, there are other streams in Judaism. It's fine that you choose the Orthodox way, but you must know that there are other streams for Judaism, and we must respect them and give them the rights, the same rights as the Orthodox have. The fact that Israel has 2 chief rabbis, 2 of them are Orthodox, why? Why can't we have 3? Reform, conservative, and Orthodox. Every city here has a rabbi. I promise you that Tel Aviv, which is a very secular city, doesn't want a rabbi. They don't want their tax money to be wasted on a rabbi. And if they need a rabbi, they'll prefer a reform rabbi, obviously. But no one ever asks them. No one ever asks us what we want. And we encourage young girls and women in general to take an active role in Judaism. Bat mitzvah, we encourage women to have their bat mitzvah with Women of the Wall. We have booths where we offer women to put on and try on the talit and tefillin for the first time, or shake the lulav and etrog on Sukkot. We have a follow-up lectures that don't talk just about Women of the Wall, but about Jewish feminism in general. How did this whole thing develop? I mean, how did we reach the fact that people think that women simply do not have a role in Judaism? It's all due to history. So how did we get there, and what's the right way of going? So that's Women of the Wall. We're also a lot on social media and regular media too, trying to basically, again, educate the public that Judaism is for all, and the Kotel belongs to all of us.
Actually, one of the questions I was going to ask, and maybe I will ask it, it seemed like the struggle that you were going through was so much more on a very basic level, but having read something like Judith Plaskow, and are people within Women of the Wall at all considering rethinking the liturgy and the approach to Judaism? Is that something that you're interested in, or is that not?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Well, have you read Standing Again at Sinai? It's a really quite an old book. Here it is. What she was talking about was how much of the custom and the halachic rules and so on were not
Not involve women.
Did not create egalitarianism, did not allow women to have the same roles that they might want to have. And she goes all the way back to Sinai, where, you know, if you read that the passages, it's the men, and then the women and the children are off somewhere else. And that it really, the whole thing had to be rethought. And I just wondered whether anyone within Women of the Wall was going to that basic re-understanding of Judaism.
So I'm sure some of us do. Again, we're women from all denominations. By the way, as a group, we go according to the Orthodox law, so everyone can feel comfortable. Everything we do is according to the Orthodox law. Not that it matters, but that's how we work. And you raise a valid point, the fact that, yes, the Torah was never equal, and it never allowed women to fully be a part. And I blame history, honestly. It's the fact that that's the way history was, not just in Jewish life, but in life in general did not involve women. And because of that, I think that we have to look at religion in historical eyes, with historical glasses, and say, okay, time has changed. And the fact, I mean, you ask me, why is it so important for me to be as a religious feminist? I find it so absurd that as a woman, I can reach the moon. And yet some women, when they come to their own synagogue, they'll sit in the back and no one will count them as part of a minyan. And it's so hurtful to come to a group and you want to pray and there are 9 men waiting and waiting. And this happened to me so many times in the army, and they're waiting and waiting and waiting. And I offered them, okay, so count me in. And they prefer to pray without a minyan than to count me as a woman who came and wanted to be a part. And I made the effort, and I woke up early, and I came in the rain. So no, we'll pray without a minyan because we don't want to count you as a woman. And that's where I say, no, this is ridiculous. We have to change it. One of my biggest arguments with my own husband is we do not have to wait for rabbis to come and say, this needs to change. We need to change it because we are people. And as a woman, that's I feel it so strongly. I feel it's so emotional for me. And that's why for my daughters, I want them to know that they have a part. They're equal. They're not different than men. And yes, I will force them to read Torah through bat mitzvah. And if they don't want to read Torah afterwards, that's fine too.
I have a question. As
Yes.
I was not familiar with, it's actually more of a comment. Not really familiar that much with I'm Jewish, but not really familiar what's going on. I just want to make a comment that it seems to me this is much more of a political battle than an educational battle. And I see this in the ultra-Orthodox movement. It mirrors extremist movements throughout the world. And we're engaged in this tooth and nail in the United States itself. And I think it requires political action, maneuvering, pressure, money, all the things that can drive political change, redistricting, I mean, it's being fought in every country in the world, and our lives and our futures depend on it. That's my only comment.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Not only because for women, the personal is political and the political is personal, but it is because of the lack of separation between state and religion. So every religious battle here is political, and we work very closely with the government, with the Knesset, and trying and lobbying for implementing the Kotel Agreement. I mean, the whole reason that we were offered a compromise in the first place was your pressure, and now it's on us to implement it again, to pressure again. We were able to bring most of the parties in this current coalition to agree to implement the Kotel Agreement. But afterwards, what happened when the government was finally formed after 2.5 years that we had no government, is that Prime Minister Bennett folded. He folded because he's afraid of the ultra-Orthodox pressure. Does it mean we're going to stop? Not at all. We continue. We're in touch with the president, with the parliament secretary. So right now, they're basically offering us crumbs and saying, look, well, there's like a small porch that touches the western wall stones at the egalitarian section. We'll open it up. We'll reopen it. A few minor renovations. It's not what we're fighting for. And for women of the wall, that's not enough. We'll continue to fight until they implement the Kotel agreement. And you're absolutely right, it's a political struggle right now. But because of the ultra-Orthodox have a lot of political pressure, we're in trouble.
Is it just the ultra-Orthodox, I mean, primarily that are opposed to, you know, having Torahs at the Western Wall, or is it the Orthodox community in general? I mean,
Yeah, it's so the Orthodox community is very divided. I mean, you have the ultra-Orthodox, and then we have what we call Chardalim, they're the Zionist ultra-Orthodox, and then you have the Zionist religious community, who oftentimes don't really care about those issues, but a lot of them are becoming more and more extreme within religion. So yes, it's an Orthodox issue more than anything else. But the majority here are secular. And even a lot of Orthodox understand that for Shalom Bayit, for the peace of the entire Jewish people, we need this solution.
Well, if the majority of people in Israel are secular, then why do they have why don't they have more of a voice? Why did Naftali Bennett bow to the ultra-Orthodox if they're not the largest voice in the country?
For the same reason that everyone bows to the ultra-Orthodox movement here. They might have, right now they're about 12% of the population, but they have two parties at the Knesset. The rest of us have about 7. We're very divided up. We have too many parties, and 100% of them go out and vote. So they might be 12% of the population, but they have 16 seats at the Knesset, which is a lot. So they have a lot of power. And this whole status quo started with Ben Gurion, who wanted everyone to feel a part of the new forming country. And he said, okay, you'll control the religious aspects here in Israel. And it turned into this monster of monopoly. When Ben Gurion, before he died, by the way, he said, I was wrong handing them in so much power. But the fact remains that they have the monopoly over religion here. So with this new government, we're starting to see a little bit of changes within conversion, a little bit, who can convert here in Israel, and kosher certificates, that you do have different kosher certificates, but it's not enough. It's not enough, and they have a lot of political power. They're a very convenient partner for coalitions, because they don't care about budgets, they don't care about going to war, they don't care about settlements, they care about money for their communities and their monopoly. As long as they're promised that, they'll vote for whatever they're asked to do.
And it seems like there's just such a dichotomy. I hope you don't understand that word, but you have a city like Tel Aviv and you have a city like Jerusalem. They're so different. You would think that the people in Tel Aviv, where gay rights are very much a part of their culture, and maybe a little bit more secular, a little bit less, religious, you would think they would be up in arms, as other parts of the country would be, that the Orthodox would have such control. I mean, is that happening in places like Tel Aviv or Haifa or some of these other communities, or is it just they don't care?
Just live their lives. They just live their lives. So they go to restaurants that aren't kosher. If they want to marry, you just don't marry through the chief rabbinate. And oftentimes a lot of them just gave up. A lot of us just gave up from the system, understanding that there's just no way of beating the system. But there is a way, and we have to beat the system.
Is there any in between intermediary positions? Are there groups that are supporting you, for instance?
We have a lot of groups, of course.
And is there a possibility that that the numbers would outweigh those of the Haredi Jews?
I'm not sure that it's a matter of numbers, honestly. I mean, we have world Jewry behind us, and that's not enough. They know how to go out and demonstrate. But again, I feel like it's not just a matter of numbers, it's a matter of doing right. And the right thing to do is to allow everyone to have an honorable, respectable place at the Kotel. We're not trying to take anything away from anyone. We're just trying to add another option. Option is not a scary word.
Are there other questions, anyone?
Yeah, I have one more. I don't know what the situation is now, but do the ultra-Orthodox still have a right not to have to go into military service? Because in the military, you are forced to contact people with different ideas and different lifestyles, and it can lead to a better understanding of how the world is.
So it's actually a huge thing here now in Israel, because Yesh Atid, which is one of the largest parties in the coalition, that's one of their goals, to pass the law that they have to serve, and they passed that law. Now you see a lot of demonstrations from the ultra-Orthodox, but let's see when it will actually be implemented. That when is the law going to be enforced that they have to serve in the army? But I have to say that when and if they join the army, it comes with a lot of prices, and the price will be that women won't be able to serve in all of those in many units, because when an ultra-Orthodox person serves in the army, he can in a certain unit, he can't have women in the same unit. He can't have a woman being his commander. He can't have a woman telling him what to do. So we pay the price. So I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I want them to serve in the army, because it comes with a price that I don't want to pay. And yes, they should serve in the army. There's no way that I have to dedicate 3 years of my life that my brothers had to dedicate so many years of their lives, and they put themselves in danger, and they don't. And they have to serve, but it cannot come with the price of women not being able to serve the way they want to. So we'll see, and I agree with you that the army is a turning point oftentimes, that you meet people. I mean, that's where I was exposed to a different type of Judaism, to different types of people. And it was amazing. It changed my life. And I thank my courage every day for serving in the army, because my school was not in favor of me serving in the army. We'll see. Time will tell. I want to thank you all for sitting in here today with the lovely weather outside, and for joining my presentation. I do encourage you that if and when you come to Israel, you'll plan your trip around Rosh Chodesh. We have it on our website. And you join our service, you contact me. I'll send my email in the chat right now. And that you'll be able to come and join our powerful services. Yeah, you have it in the chat.
Deborah, you want to take us home?
Yeah, let me just write, women.
I have that information. Don't worry about it.
Okay, of the wall. Okay. Well, we want to thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. I wish more people had been able to come and had decided to join us, but we do have it recorded so we can share it. We wish you all the success and everything that you do, and I'm sure that there are people here who will want to join those services. It sounds very exciting.
Thank you. We always have them on live stream on our Facebook page, so you can join virtually. Yeah.
Oh, that too. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you from Congregation Beth Abraham, and we are hoping to see you in Israel. Next year in
Yofi.
Jerusalem.
Amen. Shavua Tov, everyone. Have a great week.
Lila Tov.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Toda rabah.
Bye-bye.